Hello, folks. The Church of Jesus Christ has been hijacked. This is my story of racism, intimidation, and exclusion at Hillsong Church. For years, I believed the church was a place where the broken could find healing, where every person, regardless of race, could find a spiritual home. I believed that welcome meant what it said on the walls, the screens and the brochures. But what happens when the church you trusted becomes the very source of your hurt? This is my story with Hillsong Church and why I can no longer stay silent. When I began raising internal concerns about patterns of racism within Hillsong, I expected the leadership to listen, pray, investigate, and seek truth. Instead, they ignored the issues completely. Silence was the only beginning. Silence was only the beginning. Suddenly, I found myself isolated, monitored, and intimidated. Leadership began to place me under a kind of internal surveillance, watching who I spoke to, how I moved. The more I spoke, the more aggressive the treatment became. Intimidation turned into coercion, and coercion turned into active exclusion. And eventually, without genuine discussion or due process, I was expelled. I refused to stay quiet. In fact, if anything, I asked them for a good reason for me to be quiet, and they couldn't provide that good reason. So I refused to stay quiet. So my removal was not a solution. It was a strategy, a way for them to control the narrative as usual. But what stood out most was the confirmation of the very racism I had been highlighting. Hillsong loves to show black and colored faces on the screen during services, conference, and fundraising campaigns. Part of it, obviously, creates a picture of diversity, unity, and transformation. But behind the camera, the reality is painfully different. The church has poured its greatest financial, spiritual, structural investment into predominantly white suburbs and white campuses. Meanwhile, black and colored communities are treated as spiritual side projects, good enough for optics, good enough for fundraising, but not important enough for equal investment. It echoes the words of one of the most respected theologian, white theologian, the late David Bosch, who observed that when a white man sees a black man, he sees a worker or a tool. Inside Hillsong, that observation feels painfully accurate. Black people are celebrated when they serve, when they usher, when they sing, when they pack chairs, when they make church look diverse. But when a black member raises legitimate concerns about injustice, suddenly the welcome disappears. Suddenly, the right of admission reserved sign becomes more powerful than the welcome home sign. I reported the harassment and the racial discrimination to the magistrate court, the local magistrate court. After months of delays, the matter could not proceed because Hillsong's lawyer argued at the same time that the same issues were already before the equality court. So the harassment was dismissed on a technicality, not on substance. The Equality Court eventually referred the matter to Human Rights Commission, where it now sits awaiting action. if there was truly nothing to investigate, then why fight so hard to block every avenue of justice? Institutions only resist transparency when there is something they are afraid of being exposed. While living Hillsong has been a blessing for my spiritual health, indeed it has been, I cannot be silent for the many non-white people who remain inside the system that sees them as tools and workers, not as equals. Then I may not be doing justice to God's word, which I have studied all my life. The house of God should be the last place where racism finds shelter. Yet in this denomination, it has become entrenched, normalized, and protected behind smiling faces and polished productions. This is why I speak out. For truth. Not for myself, but for those who not have the courage or of freedom to speak. One day I would tell you the power of Christian cults, how they hold, how they grip followers. So you have people who have not yet escaped cults, Christian cults, that are under the grip, that it's not easy to escape some of these Christian. And I'm not saying Hillsong is a cult, although so many signs of a cult are manifesting in that brand. All people are created in the image of God. All are equal. All people deserve dignity. And no church has the right to violate that. And this is a story I do not share lightly. I share it because the gospel calls us to confront injustice, not to hide it behind the lights, music, and branding. If the church truly wants to be a beacon of God's kingdom, then it must stop punishing those who reveal its cracks. It must stop weaponizing unity to silence the oppressed. And it must stop treating black bodies as decor, D-E-C-O-R, for white-led empires. I have an article that I sent on the blog why I believe that the actions of this church, in fact, I call it an imperialist, Hillsong the imperialist. The church, sadly, has been hijacked. But the truth still belongs to God, and the truth must be told. I thank you.